I'd like to say a few words about my mother, and by extension, that means of other mothers. We're approaching Mother's Day, and it's something that's quite apt. I remember when I was 45 years old, I was sitting in a car answering correspondence, and all of a sudden it came to me. My mother was right. It took 45 years to come around. She wasn't right in everything. She didn't exactly want me to become a monk, but in many of the other things, she was right. And as I think back, and somehow or another in my old age, I'm spending a lot of time thinking about things that happened in the past and how they're sort of formed the person that I am. But young children, my point is that it's very difficult to really appreciate what a mother is. It's difficult to appreciate anybody else, but I'm singling out mothers because my spiritual master would often say that the love a mother shows for their child is the closest that real spiritual love, closest that comes to real spiritual love, love for God. And so it is really the most, even amongst parental relationships of the two, the maternal is more than the fraternal. The love of the mother is so very strong. And yet because it's so very strong, it's really very hard to appreciate it. Unless you're in that particular position, unless you happen to be a mother, and then you know just exactly what mothers go through and also what mothers feel. Just a digression. In regards to what mothers feel, I remember for my 60th birthday, myself and a friend, we traveled to Toronto to visit family. There was meant to be a big birthday celebration. Myself, my cousin, my mother, his mother. And it was meant to be a birthday party. It was organized by my cousin. So my mother was speaking to my friend in India. We were flying in from India, and so he said, "Okay, don't worry, Dushi," that was her name, or at least that was her nickname. "Don't worry, Dushi, I'll take care of her. Take care of him," excuse me, that's me. "I'll take care of him." And she said, "Okay, make sure you do. Don't worry, don't worry." And she replied, "You don't know what a mother's like. You can't tell a mother, don't worry. It doesn't exist." So that was, I'm 60 years old. But it's very difficult to appreciate the intensity and the depth of attachment that a mother has for children. And when the children are very young, when they're babies, when they're infants, when they're toddlers, they're just so self-centered. Mother is just someone who's a provider. When they get a little older, children become really, a mother at best becomes a playmate. And of course, when you hit your teens, you don't listen to anybody who's not of your same age. And then when you get older, then when you also start to have your own family, then you're too old to listen to your mother. So it takes a little while to actually really appreciate the level that relationship actually implies, to appreciate the love, and to appreciate also the good advice that your mother gives. and the fact that parents always want the best for their children. That doesn't necessarily mean that they always know what's best. For instance, as in my case, the idea was that best would be is that you become successful in the material world around you, whereas my consideration of best was that you strive for self-realization and are willing to sacrifice the world around you. But still they want the best. My experience with my mother, we went through a lot. Not went through a lot in terms of a relationship, but in terms of, I was born in Hungary at the end of the Second World War. We went through a revolution. We sneaked out of the country, crawled across the border. We ended up becoming migrants. We had sponsorship in Canada, but we were immigrants, and we went to a new country. We didn't speak the language. It was a very welcoming country, but we didn't speak the language. I had to go to a new school where everyone started making fun of me because I didn't speak the language, and they struggled. Everything that they sort of put together here, cobbled together here in a few years, less than 10 years after the Second World War was just all lost, wiped out, and they had to start again in their 40s from scratch. So it wasn't difficult, and then to actually build up, to have our own house, and it requires a lot of sacrifice, a lot of effort, and of course, constantly the vision is, and mind you, I'm the only child, is that we're doing it primarily for him. We're leaving, our homeland to a strange land, and it was primarily for that child, for their welfare. I'm going on, but anyway, my principle is, or at least my message is, that we really need to try to appreciate even someone who we can't fully understand, namely our mother. I mean, by not understand means we can't really put ourselves in their place, because the sacrifice that they do, the emotions that they feel, the concern that they have, the type of relationship, it's extraordinary. Sometimes boys and girls in a sort of a conjugal relationship where everyone's on the same level, husband and wife, that gets very intense, but we see the percentage of those intense relationships tend to also either end in divorce, or they sort of get diluted down the road. This relationship doesn't get diluted, it just stays the same. As my mother told my friend, you just don't know what it's like to be a mother. There's no such thing as don't worry.